like I said, I straight up just lost people, and they ain't ever coming back. And so I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. The only thing I can do about it now is to try to bufferize myself, buff away that stuff, buffer.
The family had a lot of buffers.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeff Bowles Central. I have to do this mental health video early in the morning. Everybody's asleep, so I gotta try to be as quiet as possible and hope that the microphone's getting me like I want to be gotten. I'm a delusional human being. I have thoughts and modes of thinking and thinking things and things that I think that do not comport with reality at all times. Truth be told, I am not much of a hallucinator anymore, or have not been in several years. When I was first diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder in 2016, I was in the middle of a psychosis, my first in my entire life, which began to onset at about the age of 32 for me, which is actually really late in life, more or less. For the average person who, when they develop schizoaffective disorder, usually happens in your late teens, early 20s. That's the most common. At that time, I was hallucinating like crazy, and it was really unpleasant, and it was really kind of awful. The hallucinations are a tough one because, man, it's so jarring, it's so strange. But I would argue that the hallucinations are one thing, but that the delusions are kind of another ball game, because it's not just about what you see or hear or smell, and that being non-compliant to reality, but it's also about, with delusions, just the very nature of your mind, the very nature of your thinking. So this more has something to do with, like, even how you interact with people, because you get situations and you get people all wrong all the time. And the thing about this with me is that I'm still delusional. I still have delusions, and that's mainly the thing that I deal with, in addition to the mood dysfunctionality, which is part of being the bipolar type of schizoaffective disorder. There's two types. There's a schizoaffective bipolar type, and there's schizoaffective depressive type, and I am of the latter, former. And so I deal with mood stuff, and I do have hallucinations. I just don't get them all day, every day. It's more like every couple days, and it's really not so persistent that I can't kind of shovel it if I wanna most of the time. The delusions, however, are much more bothersome. And I'll give you some examples of these for me, just because I can't really speak to other people's experiences, obviously. But here's the thing with that. There are 7 types, clinically speaking. The DSM-5, okay, the Diagnostic Manual for all psychological related issues and diagnoses and disorders and everything, right? There's 7 types of delusional thinking with schizophrenia / schizoaffective disorder, okay? And I'll list them over here. But I'm really only going to go into the ones that I understand. So the first one I understand intimately, although again, this one was more of a thing for me several years ago, okay, is erotomania, or erotomanic thinking. Now, I don't know about you, but I know the word erotic and I know the word mania, and I kind of don't want those two words in the vicinity at the same time, because those two things don't really feel like they go together well. Well, indeed they don't. Not to be flippant, I just try to battle this stuff with humor as much as I friggin' can. Erotomania is like this. Someone loves me in the world. When they don't. And so for some people, with this erotomanic thinking thing, it's like celebrities, people they literally don't know. Yeah. So here's a classic case. The guy who shot Ronald Reagan. Okay. He thought he was doing that for Jodie Foster, the actress. Jodie Foster was telling him from afar, "Hey, you need to shoot Reagan." He was like, "Okay." I understand some of this stuff. I never shot anybody, but I understand the thing about, like, someone literally telling you from across time and space telepathically, I love you and I want to be with you. It's some weird stuff, and it's actually really embarrassing for me to admit. So I hope you don't mind the vulnerability on the internet where anybody randomly can find it. That's just me, but I'm trying to share my experience to support those who understand it, or may not understand it but experience it, or may not understand or experience it but have to deal with it nonetheless. I had a friend. I met this person in college, and shortly after my symptoms started appearing, and I'm married. My wife and I didn't really understand what this stuff was. We hadn't ever encountered it. We hadn't certainly never researched it. And the media and the culture gives you really poor facsimiles when they discuss schizophrenia. Movies paint us in a really shitty light that is not totally accurate. So don't expect to get good information from there. Except maybe like A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. That one does okay. But here's what erotomanic thinking is. I'm talking to someone telepathically across the country. This person never really expressed any romantic interest in me before, but oh boy, they sure are now in my mind. Not only am I in love with this person suddenly, this person is suddenly in love with me, and they're commanding me to do things for the love. This is just my case, okay? And I'm following through with those things all of a sudden for no understandable reason. So the hallmark of delusional thinking, the thoughts and the mode of thinking and the logic don't comport with reality. And you also cannot shake a person out of them with logic, with reason. If you were to explain to me, that's not possible, Jeff, you can't really be in love with this person, they can't really be in love with you, and you can't really be hearing them from across distance, it wouldn't have mattered. In fact, my wife tried many, many, many times, and it didn't sink in, and I kept pushing, and I kept pushing, and I kept pushing. And I could have pushed her away, but I pushed this person away. I'm never going to talk to this person again. That's a dead relationship, just gone, because most people can't handle this stuff, and I don't blame this person. It's not pleasant. It wasn't pleasant for me either, which I wonder people consider that it's not pleasant for us a little bit more than it's not pleasant for them, but whatever. So that's erotomanic thinking. Like I said, I have snapped out of that one for the most part, which is nice. I'll talk about snapping out of what that seems like to me, because like I said, you can't be shaken out of it. Not really. Not without professional help, and I'll talk about that as well. The other one I want to talk about briefly, although I'll be brief. Persecutory delusions. Now those I very much still suffer from. And I am aware that I suffer from them, and I am aware that I have a problem with it. But when I am having an acute bout of this type of delusion, again, I cannot see. It's like saying the sky is green, Jeff, not blue. No, it isn't. I can't say that it's green. And yet, everybody tells me it's green. It's like that. It's like, you can't tell me what I don't know, and you can't argue with what my mind feeds you. Delusions of persecution. Everybody's out to get me. Everybody hates me. Everybody wants to hurt me. This person I cannot trust. This person is scheming. I have these still, pretty strong sometimes, and that's tough because it affects your relationships you wouldn't believe. Because again, most people cannot handle this sort of thing, and why should they have to necessarily? Except that I would like that some of these normies out there might include you. I hope you don't take offense. Not meant. It's kind of, again, trying to keep it light. The normies out there, I wish a little compassion. That would be kind of cool. I don't mean it. I don't mean to make you think that I hate you, because I don't. I think you hate me so strongly, I can't shake it. Yeah. So those are a couple of examples of delusional thinking. How do you combat delusional thinking? By yourself, you don't. As a sufferer, you can't necessarily, without guidance, is what I mean to say. or some kind of miraculous intervention where suddenly you stop kind of suckering into it. What you need is professional help for all of this, actually. People ask me like individual questions because I'm on the internet here talking about this stuff. What should I do about this situation? What should I do about that situation? I don't know this person. Is it this? I'll absolutely answer any question as best as I can, but the real answer to most of it is seek professional help. Seek professional help. Seek treatment. If you're having issues and you cannot get around the issue, don't sweat it, man. Get in some counseling. Get on some medication, especially if you have psychotic symptoms. It's really the only thing that we have in the year 2025 to combat psychosis is meds. That's what we got, man. Take it or leave it. Don't leave it. Try it. Try to take it. Try to get those symptoms down. They'll work with you in counseling to help you start to try to see the folly of the thinking patterns. Okay. So, one of the other things that I have is what they call just the straight up bizarre category of delusional thinking. My largest delusion in all of this is that the voices are real people. Rather, they're demons or spirits. That's my thing. Okay? And that conviction has been so strong in me for so long, I doubt I'll ever get rid of it. And no matter what people tell me, you're not possessed, you're schizophrenic, I can't get rid of that, right? That's me. That's one of the things I suffer with. And yet, it's sort of not an unhelpful delusion in the sense that recognizing that these voices, to me, are not a part of me, I've been able to insert a small buffer. A small buffer.
Was there always a buffer involved? There's someone in between you and your possible superiors who gave the actual order.
Right, yeah, buffer. The family had a lot of buffers.
A counselor is going to help you insert your own buffers. At some point, you have to be able to tell yourself or distinguish you, the things that are naturally yours, with things that are somehow foreign. Your brain feeds you these things. In my case, I believe that spirits feed me these things. I'll be straight up about that. You know, that's part of what I experience. It just is. Still in all, though, I have a buffer there. Maybe it's not a super helpful buffer. Maybe it's not super healthy. Depends on who you ask. But that's it. That's how I do it. I'm like, that voice isn't me, it's a spirit, so I can ignore it, right? And I wish I had a better buffer, but I don't. Going back to Russell Crowe's A Beautiful Mind. So that guy, you know, he didn't start developing a buffer until he realized that his hallucinations, these people he was seeing, they weren't getting older. They were staying the same age, even though he was aging, right? So he's like, well, wait a second. He put one and one together and finally got two instead of 59. And that's the buffer that I'm talking about. At some point, a delusional thinker must interrupt that process, must insert something between them and the delusion. And at that point, you can start to rejoin reality mentally. Going back to the erotomanic delusions I have had, those didn't start to clear up until I realized that this person hates my guts. That's helpful, but it's a buffer. It's what I had. It's what I got. It's what I used. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. You have to develop a buffer, and you, as a sufferer, don't have a lot of ability to get around this by yourself without help. In fact, maybe none. I mentioned The Beautiful Mind. He did, but it took time. It can happen. With help, it can be easier, faster, more effective. And the thing with schizophrenia is the longer that this thing impacts you, the more brain damage it can do. Physically damage structures in the brain. So you really do want to take care of this. You really do want to get into counseling because it can become irreversible. For some, it does. And you, as a someone who must experience someone suffering, or must watch out for them, or must counsel them, or must be their friend or their spouse or their parent or whatever, again, the only thing that you can do, don't feed into the delusion. Try to validate feelings rather than delusions, and know that every time you counteract that thing, it's probably going to stay there. It's probably going to stay pretty stiff. You're not really going to be able to talk them out of it. It's kind of the hallmark of delusion, right? Get them into counseling. Convince them to go into counseling. If they're a danger, get them into a hospital. Yeah. And it's only through that you can start to pick this stuff apart, and you really do need to pick it apart if you want to regain some of your life, regain some of your functionality. Like I said, I straight up just lost people, and they ain't ever coming back, and so I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. The only thing I can do about it now is to try to bufferize myself, buff away that stuff, buffer.
The family had a lot of buffers.
So that relationships I form in the future can be healthier. That's all I can do. Get ye to a professional. Get ye some counseling or some pills. Counseling is the thing that helps with delusion. The pills are more for psychotic or emotional dysfunction. And they work to varying levels of success. But again, that's what we have in 2025 medically. Or medically. Again, not a professional, just a sufferer. I don't know all the terms, although I try to read up on it when I can. So that's it. To combat delusional thinking, you need help. To combat hallucinations, you need help. To combat disorganized living, you need help. What's the sum total? 1 + 1 equals you need help. So that's it. Jeff Bull Essential. Like if you want, subscribe if you want, or don't care. But well, I care. Please do. Please do. And come on back again real soon. Same Jeff time, same Jeff channel. Bye.